Assalamu alaikum everyone. Have you ever wondered why some foods are labeled as halal and others as haram? Maybe you've seen the labels on food products or heard your Muslim friends mention it, but you aren't quite sure what it all means. Well, stick around because today we're diving into the fascinating world of halal and haram foods according to Islam. Let me tell you one thing. It's not just about what you eat. It's about a whole philosophy of life, ethics, and respect. And here at the Halal Times, we would like to break it all down for you in a way that is easy to understand and hopefully a bit fun too. So, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Halal Times YouTube channel. Today, we are breaking down what makes certain foods halal and others haram in Islam. We will explore what these terms mean, why they matter, and how they guide millions and millions and millions of Muslims around the world in their daily food choices. We'll also go over some interesting examples, and by the end of this video, you will have a much better understanding of what is halal, what is haram, and why it's important for Muslims. So, I would request you to grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's have a conversation about all things halal and haram. Let's start by chatting about these two key terms, halal and haram. First of all, this is something very important which I would like to clarify in the beginning before we go any further. Halal means permissible or allowed, while haram means forbidden or prohibited. These categories aren't just random. They're rooted in teachings from the Quran, which is the holy book for Muslims, and the hadith, which are sayings and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him. For Muslims, eating halal isn't just about following a rule. It's about living a lifestyle that is in harmony with their faith. Halal guidelines cover everything from the type of food to how it's sourced and prepared. And honestly speaking, it's about more than just the technicalities. It's about showing gratitude and respect for what we consume on day-to-day basis. So, the very first question which we would like to address is what makes food halal? Let's break it down together. First and foremost, the type of animal matters, and it does matter a lot. In Islam, Muslims are allowed to eat the meat of animals like cows, chickens, goats, sheep, and fish. But here is an important part. Even if the type of meat is halal, the animal must be slaughtered in a way for it to be permissible for Muslims. And of course, we have certain guidelines for slaughtering any halal animals. So in the beginning, let's take the example of a chicken. It might be, of course, it is a halal animal, but if it is not slaughtered according to Islamic guidelines, then it becomes haram. The halal slaughtering process, which is also called zabiha, requires that the animal must be alive and be healthy at the time of slaughtering, and that the name of Allah is mentioned before the animal killed properly. And of course, there are a lot of detailed regulations about how to slaughter the animal. This isn't just a ritual, it's a way of ensuring respect for the animal and acknowledging that its life is being taken for a purpose. Now, brothers and sisters, let's contrast this with pigs. Pigs are considered inherently haram, meaning no matter how they are raised or slaughtered, they can never ever be considered halal for Muslims. I'm using the word never ever. No matter how you slaughter them, no matter how you raise them, they can never be considered halal. So this prohibition is clear in the Quran and is followed by Muslims all over the world without any question, without any shadow of doubt. Now, there's another question which a lot of people might be asking. We have seafood, one of the more interesting areas, right? Most seafood, to my understanding, is considered halal without any specific slaughtering requirements. This means fish like salmon, tuna, and shrimp are perfectly fine for Muslims to eat without any question. However, some scholars debate certain seafood like shellfish and octopus. But for the most part, the majority of Muslims consider fish to be halal. And it's one of those areas where you might hear different opinions depending on where you're from or who you ask. So we've talked about halal foods. Now let's also have a look at what makes something haram. One of the biggest factors in this context is the presence of haram ingredients. This could be pork, alcohol, or any intoxicating substance. For instance, many types of processed food might be haram not because of the main ingredient, but because of additives like gelatin, which often comes from pigs. I use the word often, not always. So maybe we'll discuss it later. Here is an example. You walk into a grocery store and pick up a bag of marshmallows are often made with gelatin, which can be derived from pork, and it is derived from pork in many cases. If that is the case, that would make those marshmallows haram. However, if the gelatin is derived from a halal source like beef that is properly slaughtered, then it could be halal. Of course, there is no doubt about it. This is why reading labels and checking certifications is so much important for Muslim consumers. It's a bit like being a detective. You got to know what to look for. This is something important. Alcohol is another big no in Islam. Any food or drink that contains alcohol is automatically considered haram. And this just doesn't mean obvious things like beer or wine. Even foods that use alcohol as a cooking ingredient, like certain sauces or desserts, can be problematic for Muslims. For instance, another example I would like to take here. For instance, a delicious tiramisu might look tempting, but if it contains rum or any form of alcohol, is off limits for Muslims. Even foods cooked with alcohol, cooks off, are still considered haram by most scholars because the substance itself is forbidden. It's all about staying true to the principles which are set by God and His beloved messenger, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace be upon him. With so many details to consider, now the question arises, how can you tell if a product is halal? That is where halal certification comes in. Organizations like Japan Islamic Trust, Islamic Services of America, and so many others in every part of the world, in almost every single country, their job is to make sure that products meet all the requirements for being halal. You will often see a halal certification logo on food packaging, which means it's been vetted by a reliable organization. Now imagine you're shopping for some snacks and you spot a package of chips with a halal logo. This symbol means you can trust that every ingredient, from the spices to the oil used in preparing these snacks, has been thoroughly checked actually, and meets halal standards. This is specifically important for processed foods, where there can be hidden ingredients that might not be immediately obvious. But it's not just about what is allowed or forbidden. There's an ethical side of halal as well. Halal isn't just about following a set of rituals. It's about ensuring that the food we consume is pure, ethical, and respectful of the environment. This means that animals must be treated well and they should not suffer unnecessarily. For example, factory farming practices that involve mistreating animals would not align with halal principles. Even though the meat might technically be halal, the unethical treatment of animals goes against the spirit of what halal stands for. Many Muslims are increasingly mindful of these ethical aspects and seek out meat that is not only halal but also ethically sourced. Now, my friends, you might be kind of thinking, why does all of this matter beyond the Muslim community? Well, the global halal market is growing at an incredible rate. Businesses, especially those in the food industry, are beginning to realize the value of catering to halal conscious consumers. So, by understanding what makes food halal or haram, businesses can better serve a significant portion of the global population, and that's a significant portion of the global population. For instance, major fast food chains in countries with large Muslim populations often offer halal options. For example, KFC in Malaysia serves halal certified chicken. And McDonald's, of course, I don't like these two food chains just because of the fact that they are basically they support Zionism. But apart from that, McDonald's has halal, a lot of halal outlets in several different countries, not just in Malaysia, but in many other countries as well. So these companies have recognized the business value and the importance of meeting halal standards to attract Muslim customers. So, there you have it, a deep dive into what makes food halal or haram in Islam. It's about more than just what is on your plate. It's about living in harmony with faith, respecting ethical guidelines, and making informed decisions and choices in your life. Whether you are a Muslim looking to better understand your dietary requirements, or someone in serving halal conscious customers, or you might have, although you are not yet Muslim, but you might have interest in consuming halal food. Knowing these distinctions can make a huge difference. So, brothers and sisters, Muslims or otherwise, if you found this video helpful, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming content here on the Halal Times YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or thoughts on halal and haram foods, please drop them in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Let's keep this conversation going and learn from each other. Thanks so much for watching, and inshallah, I hope to see you in the next video very soon. Till then, Salam Alaikum.